So I got a chance to play Warzone 2's ranked play a little early. I got flown out to Raven Software Studios by Activision and was able to talk with the devs and other content creators that were there to go ahead and try this out. Overall, there's a lot of things to look forward to when ranked play drops for the mid-season update. And since it's starting at the mid-season instead of the beginning of a season, it's going to be a little bit shorter than you'd have for a typical season. And it's also going to start in beta. And the great part about that is they're going to be able to tweak stuff and change stuff pretty quickly versus it being full release where they kind of already committed to certain things. Obviously, with the Battle Royale, you're going to want to make sure it works the way you gain SR, the way the competition works, what limitations you put on the game, if at any at all, and you kind of just balance it out. It's going to only be trios, which you may have already kind of heard a little bit about it. We've kind of had a little bit kind of an idea of what it's going to look like. But now we're able to actually talk about some of the things that we were able to get hands-on testing on with the handful of creators that were there. One of the nice things is going to have a transparent SR system, and this is how you're able to earn SR to move up through the various ranks, which is going to mirror multiplayer very closely, where you have bronze, silver, gold, all the way up to iridescent and the top 250. So it's going to work very much similar to that, but the whole SR system is going to work completely different than we have in multiplayer, because obviously it's a battle royale. And if you actually played Apex or watched Apex ranked, you'll kind of get a good idea of where it is in terms of SR. It's not identical to that, but it's very close in terms of comparison. And I think that's a good route to go. I'm really glad they went that route, where as you move up, there's going to be deployment fees where it costs you a little bit more. So it gets harder the higher you go up, and the penalty gets much larger all the way up to iridescent, and especially in that top 250. But if you're in gold or whatever, it's going to be significantly less. Instead of stars for wins like multiplayer, you're going to get stars for placement. Whether you place in the top 25, top 10, or inevitably you win, you'll get a different number of stars so that you can kind of max that out in the rating system, where you get your little beast and then you get the little color. So it's kind of two different things there, and then you get rewards depending on how you place in each of those. They also have demotion protection, very similar to that we have in multiplayer, where if you just reach a new rank, so for example, you go from gold to platinum, what will happen for your first 3 matches, you won't drop back to gold. So if you end up losing, you don't gain any SR, then you'll get demoted back to gold, which is kind of standard. It gives you the little bit of chance to actually get out if you kind of had a little bit of a rough start, because as you go up, as you would expect, it's going to get a little bit more challenging. And part of that has to do with the party skill restriction. So just like they have it in multiplayer, the broadest range are for the lowest rank. So from like bronze to gold, or whatever the case is, you'll be able to play with your friends. But as soon as people get to iridescent, they're only going to be able to play with crimson or potentially diamond, depending on how it matches out with queue times. Basically, it just gets narrower and narrower the amount of people you can play with, in this particular with your friends. So if you want particular friends to play with, make sure you guys are leveling kind of on pace, so you'll be able to continue to level all the way up to as high as you want to achieve, whether that's gold, crimson, iridescent, or even the top 250. So like I said, it is very similar to Apex. There are a couple different ways you can get points. That they are in the process of changing the stuff based on the feedback we gave, because we gave a ton of feedback, whether it's on the mode, the rule set, different stats, UI things. There's a lot that will probably change between what we talked about and what we played, to making the final product to be a little bit more optimized, whether it's UI stuff, just to make it a little bit more noticeable when you gain some points, because initially maybe the UI was a little bit small. So we're like, hey, maybe make it a little bit bigger. So we might expect to see that, and that'll be a nice surprise. But it works very similar to Apex, where you kind of have a live SR widget that essentially, as time goes on, and you make it to the top 25 or whatever, you get a certain amount of points. If you get kills and or assist, you're going to get the same amount of points. So it's good to team shoot, because you guys will both get it. And for whatever reason you weren't able to get shots in on the target and your teammate gets the kill, you're still going to get awarded points, but a little bit less. So it kind of balances out. And then as the zones go on and there's less and less teams, the points continue to go up. It's not a flat multiplier. So for example, if I get kills and we're in the top 40, then they're all worth a certain amount. Once we get to the top 25, then they go up a little bit more. They're worth more. We go to the top 10, the new future kills are worth more. And then obviously into the top 5, those could potentially be worth more. So if you make it an end game and you win, you can have some pretty monstrous game and get some huge SR gains as well. With it, they're also going to have forced matchmaking if you do not already have a set squad. So it's not like something you could solo empty fill, no fill. Like you're not going to be able to just solo no fill like Joe Woe and go in there and try and do your thing. That's not really how it's going to work. You're going to be able to matchmake. If you don't have any friends to play with, they'll matchmake at similar skill level. If that person just backs out on you, you do get some forgiveness. So basically, if you decide to stay in that match and you get more SR, then you're going to get the more SR. If you decide to, you lost SR, you still net 0. So you don't lose anything. So it kind of encourages you to stay in the match if you want or leave if you want. No big deal, no harm, no foul. But if you're the one backing out and ditching your random teammates, you are going to get the typical penalties where maybe you're not able to queue for a certain amount of time. You will lose SR, yada, yada, because they want to avoid people matchmaking and then just randomly leaving their teammate. Just a little bit of things like that. But when it comes to rule set, there's actually no public events. So that means no fire sale, no jailbreak, no restock. So you don't got to worry about that. There's no redeploy or gulag tokens. So it's like when you do the stronghold now and you potentially get one of those, you're not going to have to get one of those. You won't get it. There's no assimilation. So if you happen to be one of those teams I talked about and the teammates left, you're not going to be able to join another team. That's it. Whatever it is, you're not going to be able to join other teams the way you are currently within the Battle Royale or even like DMZ where you can go up to 6 people in a squad. There's no multi-circles, so we're going to get the traditional Battle Royale, that new double circle that they brought over. Kind of an interesting concept, but doesn't make it into ranked. There's no Champions Quest. They don't want anyone trying to go for a nuke, kind of throw off the whole mechanics of the game. So there's no Champions Quest, which is the new contract. There's no turreted vehicles. There's no heavy chopper. And they actually limited certain pieces of gear, most notably the riot shield, which I'm a fan of just because there's so many wonky situations where if 3 people are running those, it could be kind of cheese to get into the end game and get some massive points. So we'll see. Maybe they bring that back and they nerf something else or they ban something else. But at the end of the day, that is the only limitations on what you're able to take in to the game, which is the riot shield. They're going to have reduced spawn protection. Hopefully they just remove that entirely or rework it. AI is also super weak, like basically one shot because they don't have any armor. They do very little damage. You're able to basically shoot them once and they die. So they're kind of just there almost as a placeholder. I think eventually at some point, I hope AI could just remove from the general Battle Royale or Resurgence and just left the DMZ where they shine when they're balanced appropriately. They've modified all the loadout drops. So right now you have that community loadout drop where pretty much any of the lobby can grab and there's multiple across the map. And then they have the other one, which is your team base where it's like 5 loadouts drop in the same area, kind of how we had it in Warzone 1. All of them will be that one where 5 drop in the same location, proximity, and it kind of has those areas where they drop. All of them will be like that. So you'll have your own individual loadout. If it drops off by itself, there's not probably a team in the area, kind of how we got accustomed to in Warzone 1. So that's interesting. And then all the buy stations are uniform. This is something that I think it should have always been that way because it just makes it more consistent when you're playing the game. So you'll be able to have access to armor plates, armor boxes, gas mask at everyone, unlimited UAVs for ranked play. We're not sure if the pricing is going to be what it is at 4K or they're going to bump that up. In the version we played, it was 4K, but they said it was probably too inexpensive, which in this case, we'll kind of see how that balances out. And then there's also some surprise changes to the UAV that will drastically change how they function. We'll see if they make it into this update, but the UAV expect some changes in the very near future. Also, the mortar strikes will be unlimited, precision strikes, loadout markers will be there so you can buy as many as you want. And then there will be limitations on these next items, which are counter UAVs. You'll be able to buy up to 2, cluster strikes up to 2, and then the self revives up to 2, which gets pretty interesting because you have 3 people. You won't be able to have every player get one. So it'll kind of be a little bit who gets this one and who doesn't. Overall, that's a majority of what we were able to cover in terms of ranked play. We did play our matches. I got partied up with Smixy and Joe Woe. We ended up winning the third match where everything was on the line. We had a few other content creators there that won the first and second match, but we were able to clutch up and get the win. And it was very fun to play with the specific rule set, how the SR worked, and all those things. I'm looking forward to playing it. Do I look forward to playing regular Warzone 2? Probably not really, unless they make some drastic changes. But in terms of ranked, it gives you something to grind for, and I'll at least be going for Crimson or Iridescent. Definitely not going to be putting in the grind for 250. But overall, pretty excited to what they're going to be bringing with this, and that they're going to continue to adjust and adapt over time. And at the time of this video, I'm going to be live over on Twitch with repolls. We're going to be on the Polls Check podcast. We're going to be some live commentary over the World Series of Warzone, and we're going to be answering questions about this stuff. So if you have any questions, check it out near the top of the description. Appreciate all the support. Thank you for watching. As always, have a great day.